Peeps, what's the beef? Episode 11 of the Chef Fit podcast. The 3 pillars of success for chefs. I'm your fucking host, Cameron, fucking whatever my second name is, begins with H. And then my co-host here.
Peter OBG.
Get in there.
It is no name. It's just a bunch of letters thrown together.
Just
different every week.
Just noises made with mouths. Anyway.
How are we getting on, Cam?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. Cooking a chili there. Very, very fucking hot. Just tasted it in the back, so my lips are a bit spicy.
Mind the eyes.
Don't touch the face. Too late. Grin and bear it.
Do you want to hear something gas, Cam?
Get in there, Paul.
I have two football teams I coach, right? A teenagers team and a young girls team, right? The difference with them is absolutely night and day. So the 15-year-olds, you can grab them by the scruff of the neck and say, "Will you fucking do the fucking work? Get back in there," right? The other girls' team, obviously, I don't parent them. I don't know any of them. I got roped into it, and it's a different kind of fish, right? So one of the best players. So I'm coaching these for a certain cup that's coming up at the end of June for the school, right?
Yep.
And I have Ramacahar, Ramacuig, August, Ramashay. And then another parent has Rangahain, Rangadar, Rangache. There's one girl that plays for
people. That is Osqueliga.
Right, so I have 4th, 5th, and 6th class. And there's one girl who is in 3rd class who plays for both teams. Right? She is not up to my hip, and she is the absolute maddest footballer I have ever seen in my whole entire life. Right? She has this mentality that you wouldn't believe. First of all, when you say anything to her, she goes, "Yeah, okay." And then she cartwheels, right? So she doesn't walk anywhere. She cartwheels everywhere she goes. That's what age she's at, right? So, right, you're over there on the right wing. Over there? She goes, "Yeah, okay." And then she goes and she starts cartwheeling. She'll be cartwheeling until she gets to the side of the line. Then as soon as the game turns on, she goes into bulldog mode, right? And she doesn't see height, right? She's small, but she's small even for her age, yeah? So everybody to her is taller than her. So she doesn't see somebody who's 4 inches taller, 8 inches taller, or 2 foot taller. She just sees people as that size. Everybody is bigger, so they're no different. So yesterday, I just said, just almost for a laugh, I said, right, when you mark her, right, so I put her up against the biggest, most athletic girl on the team,
yeah,
who plays a lot of ga. And she's a monster. She's as fit as anything. And I put this tiny little girl up against her, and she battered her up and down the line.
Beast.
She battered her up and down the line.
Oh, it's all about the attitude, man.
Yeah, she doesn't see height. She doesn't see everybody. Everybody's always been bigger than her.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's all about the fucking height. Fair play to her. It's funny, though.
Time.
Funny kids' sports. Remember when I was playing rugby when I was younger? Like I was like the team mongoloid, so I was always that massive lad who was probably way bigger than he should have been. Like fucking 8 years old, and it was like 5'11". You know what I mean? Give him the ball, and he'll run through your whole team. Remember, we were under 12s, and we went over to England to fucking play. I remember you'd go to these blitzes. We'd play loads of matches in the same day. I remember my coach brought me over and goes, "Cameron, do you see that team over there?" He goes, "Yeah." It points over. I was like, "The fuck?" Like, literally a fully grown man. I was 11 years old. Literally a fully grown man, 6'1", fucking red hair and a beard with legs hairier than fucking I don't even know what else. And he goes, "You need to be on that lad the whole game. You're gonna mark him." And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's just funny when you get it with it, like kids. Some of them grow up to be absolute mutants. Some of them grow up to be fucking hobbits. But again, it's all in the attitude, really, you know?
Yeah, she was nuts.
That's gas. So, anyway, jumping into today's episode.
It's a success.
You know it. Jumping into today's episode, guys, the 3 pillars of Chef Fit success. You know, this is an interesting one. This is a real interesting one. This is something I've talked about before, and it's something that I try and coach the current lads on a lot of. And the fact that if you have these 3 things in place that I'm about to tell you about, if you have these 3 things in place, you will fucking change your life. Whereas if you don't have these things in place, man, like, you're going to slip up and fall, and you're going to go back to the same shit as you were doing before. Okay, I call this the trifecta. So a trifecta is like, it's a fucking triangle. It's a pyramid. It's got fucking 3 points, 1, 2, and 3. And when the three of them are together, they connect and they basically create this trifecta. So when I created ChefFit, I really saw, it's like, right, I see chefs, they're in bits, their lives are really stressful, they got long hours, they got a lot of shit to deal with. How to create a life and a system for them where it's like, okay, this is your key to success. If you have these three things, boom, Bob's your uncle, Mary's your auntie. So I'll jump into the first thing. When I see, and a lot of you who are listening to this, chances are you're working shitloads of hours. Chances are you're doing fucking late nights. Chances are you're working weekends. Chances are you've got a totally irregular schedule compared to all your friends and family. Chances are you're a chef. So with that in mind, it's like when you've got this life as a chef, time outside the kitchen is far more limited than a normal human being. It's far more limited than a normal human. It's like your time off is so precious to you that a lot of you will spend it doing fuck all because it's like you're guarding it. It's like, no, this is my time off. I want to fucking lie in bed all day. I used to do the same thing.
I get it all the time. You panic.
Totally.
Yeah, big time. You panic on a day off and then it's gone. You go, fuck, I wish I'd done that thing.
So when I built the number one thing that I built around that lifestyle is the path, and it's fucking simplicity. So the path is like, how do you get from A to B? That's what I mean by the path. What way do we structure the program? Like, how are you training? How are you fucking following your nutrition plan? And Peter can attest to this, that everything I do with that is simple. The concept is fucking simple. It's move every single day. See, I understand the thing that a chef needs. Chefs do not need to be standing in the gym like a dickhead taking selfies for 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you don't have the time for that shit. Leave that to the other fuckheads. Leave that to Mary down the road in her new fucking set of leggings. Like, you need to keep things very simple. That's the path. So if you keep things very simple, it means you're consistent. And if you're consistent, then you get the result. It's very simple, that concept, yeah? Simplicity, consistency, results. So what does keeping it simple actually mean? Well, keeping it simple basically means I'm going to create something to remove the excuse. I'm going to snatch that thing out of your fucking hands, pal. And what you're going to do is you're going to move every day. Oh, but like, I've fucking never been in the gym before. Cool. Go for a walk or a run. Can you walk? Go and do that every single day and make a habit out of doing it. The same thing goes for your food. It's like food, eat 3 meals a day. Every day should be like a replica of each other. Your days should be carbon copies. That's consistency. That's what that means. It's like repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Do it over and over and over again. So how you get that going is prep your food for a week. Big pot of something. I've got a chili cooking in the back. Prep that shit up for the week. Half in the fridge, half in the freezer. Eat 3 meals a day. Do that consistently. You don't have to eat the batch stuff lunch or for breakfast. You can have fucking bacon, eggs, and spinach, or you can have power porridge for breakfast. But it's like, you're never really ever cycling out of, like in your everyday life, when you're eating consistently, I'm never cycling out of more than 3 or 4 different meals. Like I'm usually eating a curry, a chili, a stew, something along those lines. I'll alternate the meat and the chili. I'll alternate the meat and the curry, for example. Like you've got those 3 or 4 big things. Prep one of those for the week. Boom. That's your nutrition. So the path, this is the first thing that you need to have established in your life. It's like, what's your path from A to B? Are you keeping it super simple? Are you keeping it super simple? Chances are, if you're a chef, you need to be keeping it super simple because you don't have the time to be complicating shit like every other dickhead does. Everyone else wants to complicate things. What's the best thing to eat? Should I be using my fitness pal to be tracking like, my metabolic rate and how many fucking... It's like, listen, worry about all that shit later. Follow the basics first. Nail down the structure that's super simple, and that is your path. Sorted. You can refine stuff and add shit later on. Don't worry about it for the moment. Move every day.
If you're getting your 3 meals properly and you're following that concise but easy to follow diet, then you don't need to be tracking anything else because the results come instantaneously.
And
first of all, you feel better straight away.
Yeah.
Second of all, we're in the first couple of weeks, in the first 2 weeks, you're looking better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as you're not consuming the shite you were before. MyFitnessPal is going to help that.
Yeah, big time. Big time. Stop looking for the gadget. Like, stop looking for the quick. That's like dangly carrot syndrome. You're always looking for the fucking, oh, Jesus, let me try this out. So maybe this is going to work. It's like, no, man. Stop fucking, like, one of the lads in the group was asking me about diet protein powder. And it's like, fuck off. Like, I mean, it's like it's fucking protein powder, man. What's regular protein powder? Pure lard? No. It's like whey protein might have slightly less calories. It's actually got half the fucking protein in it, which is the whole reason that you're fucking taking it for. What the fuck are we talking about here? Do you know what I mean? Shite bags. Anyway, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the fancy gadgets. Don't worry about the fucking, the magic pills and potions. Simple path, fucking consistency. If you're consistent, you get results. Check yourself. Yeah. Second thing, I had a point there, but I've lost it, so we'll keep moving. The second thing about these three pillars, what's the second pillar? Is your environment. It's your environment. So a chef obviously has to keep it simple. That's the whole idea of the path, is keeping it super simple. But it doesn't matter how simple you keep it. If you don't have anyone to keep you accountable, you're not going to keep doing it. That's a very fucking important thing to realize. So your environment is where you're at and who you're surrounded by. You're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I spoke about this in an earlier episode on your environment. Go and listen to it. But just in concise terms, you're the result of the people you spend the most time with. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If you hang around with drug addicts, you'll probably end up being a drug addict. If you hang around with athletes, you'll probably end up being an athlete. Hang around with comedians, you'll probably be funny. Hang around with chefs, you'll probably cook. You know what I mean? It's like, you are the result of the environment that you're in. You understand? So when I created Chef Fit, the reason that I don't just do like, hey, why don't I just coach one chef at a time? It's like, no, that's not the fucking benefit. The biggest thing that reigns true here is if you have a community and that community is something that the chef can identify with and they believe in and they feel like they're part of it, all of a sudden then they're more likely to fucking do the work because they're spurred on by the people around you. Like, that's what natural competitiveness is, like, tell me, if I'm just doing something by myself and it's on my own initiative, I'll probably be in third gear. If someone says, well, I'll beat you, then I'm fucking putting it into fifth gear and going foot down. So with your environment, you need people you can relate to. You need a fucking healthy competition, and then you need a support system where it's okay to put your hand up and admit a mistake, so you're pulled back in and you're supported through hard times. If you have those 3 things, relatability, fucking competition, and accountability, support, then all of a sudden it's a fucking game changer. Peter can attest to that.
Fucking sure, man. Absolutely sure. How on earth do you expect to fly like an eagle if you're surrounded by a lot of fucking pigeons?
That's so true. It's so true. It's like,
big time.
It's like, as I use this analogy a lot, but it's a flock of birds flying through the sky. They move in unison. When a flock of birds flies in unison, there's actually there's extra energy developed of all those birds flapping their wings. And what happens is the birds at the back actually they start to glide upon the momentum of all the other birds in front of them. And they move faster.
Like a peloton.
Yeah, they move faster and more efficiently. It's the same idea here with yourself. It's like you're better together. Band together with people who know what you're going through, who you can relate to, compete with them to see who can do the best, and support each other and hold each other accountable when times get hard. That's what your environment is, okay? Vitally, vitally important. And the other part about your environment is be able to remove the negativity. This is another thing. People aren't critical.
Or remove yourself from the negativity. That's what I did.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, big time.
In what aspect? In work or just people in general?
In work. Well, I mean, the whole environment, my environment. Instead of moving the negative people away from me, everywhere I went, there was negative people. So that branch didn't do me. So I took myself out of it.
Totally.
And that was overnight success.
Big time. Big time. You are, because when you're in that environment, you'll take certain actions. When you're not in that environment, you're not going to do that anymore. So
yeah, because I love being the big voice in a small restaurant, you know. I like small restaurants in the middle of town. These mental places. That's what I liked, you know. That's what I thought I fucking liked. I know now I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But once I took myself out of that, when I realized what was doing my nut in, and then where I was leading myself to every night, when I took myself out of that, and then you look back at it, like you're not going to be able to appreciate a painting if your nose is up against it, you know. If you step back and look at it, then you can see a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's what happened when I changed my environment. Instead of just, you know, getting rid of negative people in my life, all the negative people in my life were in work. Negative people weren't outside work because I didn't have fucking time for them to even become negative to me.
Totally. And it's like being conscious of that and removing yourself out of that negativity is an absolute game changer. And even if it's not in work, even if it's friends and shit like that, like obviously I have friends that are mad bastards, but you'd need to be aware of what's happening. Like I know there's certain friends of mine that if I'm with them, chances are I'm on the bag. Chances are I'm fucking smoking joints until I'm fucking going blue in the face or green in the face, you know? And it's like, that's fine every once in a while, but if it's regular, it's like, cool, that's an example of my environment pulling me down, because that's not who I want to be. You know, it's not who I want to be. It's not what I want to do. And like, if I say I want to fucking change my life and I want to do all these things, probably the same way that you're doing, Chef, but then you end up out with people who are fucking saying, well, let's get a bag of cocaine. And it's like, that's just a cycle that you repeat. It's like, chances are you need to remove yourself out of those situations. You need to be able to control your environment more. It's not as if you have to cut people. If you wanted to go extreme, you could cut people out of your life. But if you're not going to cut people out of your life, that's fine. Just be aware and control your environment so you're not just thrust into these situations with people who are going to fucking get you to do stupid shit. So that's it.
Get into a place where you can trust yourself with those people that are destructive, that can be destructive people, but are good friends, are good family, you know.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So that's number 2 is your environment. And then the third pillar is diving a little bit deeper. And this is something that I research on. I'm actually reading a book called Atomic Habits at the moment. It's fucking pretty badass. But he's touching on this interesting thing about changing your habits and changing who you are. And it's like this. The third pillar is your identity. It's the identity. It's like, it's not what you do, it's who you become. Who do you have to become in order to change your life? That's the most important question. And when I first heard this, it didn't really make sense to me. And now it's starting to click. So it's like this. Imagine this, right? Real simple example. When someone tries to give up smoking, they try to give up smoking cigarettes and they go out socially and someone offers them a cigarette, they'll usually say this: sorry, I'm trying to give up. That is an example of someone who still identifies as a smoker.
However, no, I don't smoke anymore.
Yeah, instead of going, if that person said, nah, I don't smoke, that person does not identify as a smoker anymore. You understand? So it's like, if you take on this identity, all of a sudden, it's like you fucking take the actions that are in line with maintaining that identity. It's like, fucking Bruce Wayne became Batman instead of fighting crime. Bruce Wayne wasn't fucking walking around Gotham City. I assume his name's Bruce Wayne. Am I getting that right? Did I fuck that up? Yeah. It's like, he wasn't walking around Gotham City fucking people up. It's like Batman was fucking people up. He had to become fear itself. It's like he had to become that character, that fucking identity to take the actions required. So it's like, that's your identity. Who do you believe yourself to be? Who do you see yourself as? Because whatever you think, you are. If you think you are something, you will become that. You understand? So if you're still on the fence about shit, and it's like a lot of chefs, like Peter's probably changed his identity. Liam has changed his identity. All these guys who've been in Chef Fit a long enough amount of time, who've built the habit, they've literally become different versions of themselves. They've changed their identity. No longer does Peter tolerate the same shit that the old Peter does, because right now it's like moving every day and exercising and taking care of himself. He does that to maintain his identity. He does it to maintain the identity. It's the same thing with the goat. Like, as he said in a previous episode, like, obviously fucking from childhood, he had developed this character that he would become. And now it's like in a group setting, like the Chef Fit setting, he's seen as the GOAT. He's seen as a leader of the group. So his actions have to be in line with that identity. You can't call yourself the fucking GOAT. You can't call yourself the best and then be sitting on the couch scratching your bollocks. It's like you have to actually be taking action in line with that identity. So getting back to what you're looking at, Chef, is in your situation, the only way that you shift your identity is by taking enough action that those actions then become a habit. And then habits once you develop a habit, that gives you evidence that you can do something. So for example, it's like if you've, oh, I just don't have time, you know what I mean? Or fucking like those excuses that you keep coming up with. If you make a habit out of exercise, all of a sudden time stops being a fucking excuse. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just an active, healthy person. I believe I've done this so many times that it's normal to me. Exercise is normal to me. So therefore, like, I believe I can do it. I have evidence to show that I can make time. So now I know I can be a fucking active, healthy, motivated chef as opposed to unmotivated excuse maker who's fucking fat.
I can attest to that myself.
Do you know what I mean?
That was my live video on Friday.
Huh?
That's what it was. That I said I can contest to that myself. That was my live video on Friday. Like, the gym is my way of getting home now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a habit. Before I would have had every single excuse of, there's no way I have time.
Yep.
To go to the gym.
Totally. It's that exact thought process. Through doing it over and over and over again, then it becomes a lot easier. When it becomes easier, now you've got evidence to show that you can fucking do it. And when you have evidence to show, then you believe it. And when you believe it, you achieve it and you become it. Yeah. You become it. I've always identified as an athlete. My whole life I've been an athlete. I've always identified as an athlete. So therefore, exercise has never been a difficult thing for me to get into. It's never been like, I've always gone to the gym at least twice a week. Like in my worst periods, when I'd really gotten into a rut with training, like I was still kickboxing once or twice a week and I was still lifting weights twice a week. That was at my worst. You know what I mean? That was at my absolute worst. Now it's moving.
Let me guess, were you working in the service industry at that time?
I actually wasn't. Believe it or not, man, I actually wasn't. I was fucking personal training. I was doing more hours in the service industry. Very similar though. Similar. When I was in the service industry, I was training about the same. I was lifting fucking 2 or 3 times a week. But when that one I'm referring to, I was lifting like for fucking 20 minutes and going home. Like it was shit, you know. Yeah. Whereas when I was in the service industry, I was at least trying to get good at lifting, you know. But I would never ever not train, because that would just be like that would be like a part of me dying. That's what that would feel like. I couldn't what the fuck? That doesn't make sense. My whole life I've always been this big, strong, athletic person who's physically able for any task. And now all of a sudden I'm going to let that go. No, because I believe myself. I believe that I am that person. So I'm going to take the action required to be that person. Now that's what shifting your identity is about, Chef. So the 3 pillars in fucking finalizing. Number 1, the path. How are you getting from A to B? How fucking simple is it? If you're a chef, you need to keep it simple, because simplicity equals consistency equals results. That's number 1. Number 2, your environment. Do you have people around you who have the same goals as you, who have the same background as you, who will hold you accountable, and you can compete with them to get the best result? Do you have those things? That is your environment. And then the last thing is, are you removing the negative people, the toxic people, or are you at least controlling your time where you're not spending as much time with them? That's your environment. That's number 2. Number 3 is your identity. Do it enough times where it becomes a habit. When you develop habits, then you fucking have evidence to show that you can do something. When you have evidence to show that you can do something, you believe you can do it. When you believe it, you achieve it. And that's when you go from being fat, unhealthy, depressed, unmotivated, all of the above, to I'm a very active, proactive, fucking productive, motivated, energetic, confident, full of self-esteem chef. Passionate and focused, all of those things. And so you shift the identity by developing a habit and believing in yourself. So that is the three pillars of a chef's success that I have created, and that is the Chef at Elite method. With that in mind, chefs, you can like us, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you might find this podcast, Podbean, and that's where we're currently streaming. Anywhere else, please subscribe and download as much as possible. Share with your friends if you feel they would benefit. With that in mind, that's been episode 11. I hope this one's been enjoyable for you. We'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.
Peace.